Always have to watch. You always have to be on the lookout for the people and things that can come up in a tyrannical government that will take away your freedom. And so the price that you pay is to be on guard, to look out. Before we get into the meaty topics of the day, I saw something that I want to share with you. 119 years ago this day, Bram Stoker introduced the scariest dude in horror films. Well, he did it in a book. It was called Dracula. And he actually based it on this place that he had visited in Romania. And he gave it to the world. And the original title was The Undead. I don't know how he came up with Count Dracula. I don't know. But I do know that Bela Lugosi dude is still scary to me today. 119 years ago today, the world was introduced to the Count Dracula. Venezuela has run out of money. And they are rioting in the streets over it. Hugo Chavez, just a few years ago, promised them, guess what? He promised them exactly what Bernie Sanders is promising America today. And there's no doubt about it. Margaret Thatcher was absolutely right, the former Prime Minister of England, when she said this. Hey, socialism's great until you run out of other people's money. And on paper, it really does look good. Looks like, hey, a chicken in every parked car in every garage. Until you run out of other people's money. I mean, they are looting grocery stores. They are looting anything they can get their hands on, because guess who has fled the place? The people who had the money and created the jobs. That's what happens when rich people are affected by wealth redistribution. When wealth redistribution or soaking the rich happens in any country, it makes the people who are not wealthy poorer. That's what happens. That's just a natural progression of that, because it takes people with capital to create jobs. And once that is gone, then there is no mechanism to create wealth or opportunity for wealth. And that's the message that Bernie won't tell you. A guy who lived with his mother till he was about 35 years old, and he didn't have his first real job until he was 41 years old, and that's something else. They don't tell you about it. And now you have these folks in the streets there in Florida, McDonald's workers wanting $15 an hour. Let me tell you why that's a bad idea. Because a robotic arm costs $30,000. Hey, do the math. I have to pay, let's just say, a payroll of 20 people, $15 an hour. They may never pay for themselves. You may have to fire them. You may have to correct them and listen to them bellyache about the job that you're doing. In fact, you might turn them over 3 or 4 different times and put up with them coming in late and giving attitude to the customers that pay your business money. You get the robotic arm, you spend 30 grand. It's never late. It's always there. And you hire one guy to make sure that it always has hydraulic oil in it. They're marching themselves. They're protesting themselves right out of a job. And I have always wondered just how much is a guy who bags fries and flips burgers worth. For my money, not $15 an hour. I have managed a McDonald's. In fact, the one right there on Line Avenue. Line Avenue. I've managed that one right there. Line Avenue in Piermont. I've managed that one. That's going back about 40 years. But I managed it, but it was an entry-level job. Started as an assistant manager, and I left there, because I found something else. But that's what a McDonald's is about. You go in, it serves the purpose, you leave. But $15 an hour, Hey, not for what I was doing then, and certainly not for what they are doing now. I'm CL Bryant. This is the CL Bryant Show, and we're going to be back. Coming up in the show will be someone that you definitely want to hear from. Lloyd Thompson, president of the NAACP, will be with me later on. CL back with you on this rainy day in the jewel cities of the Architects. Be careful out there. Soon we will be speaking with Senator Fred Mills of New Iberia. I want to talk to him about medical marijuana and also non-referrals to physical therapist. And, of course, we'll take your calls a little bit later on the show. 320-5335, 320-5335 is the number to call if you want to speak to me. Back to this thing about Venezuela. Folks, I need you to understand, and McDonald's, they go hand in hand. And, of course, you always hear me talking about a design. Now, I don't want to get, too crazy here as far as what can happen in a short time, because Hugo Chavez has only been gone, about 3 years, 3 years. Hugo Chavez has died. And not long before he died, everybody could see that what he had promised was going to go straight downhill. You remember the wave that he rode into office. It reminds me of the wave that Bernie Sanders is on right now, because people want to hear that they can get some free stuff. But when we think about that free stuff, I'm still hearing the music, Jay. When we think about that free stuff, still hearing the music. When I think about that free stuff, we are talking about things that, in fact, can't be done. And so we're watching the collapse of Venezuela right now. We're seeing them just absolutely falling apart. It can happen. It can happen. But let's hope that clearer minds and cooler heads prevail, like the one we're about to have on with us now. Senator Fred Mills from New Iberia is on with me. Senator, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for being there for us as one of our state legislators.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity. I look forward to visiting with you.
Absolutely. And Senator, there is, of course, medical marijuana on the table now to be. Will the question that I have for you, will we have the same type of setup as it is in Colorado? Tell the folks about that.
No, sir. It's probably the most conservative written piece of legislation in the United States, and it truly is for medicinal use only. You would have to have a recommendation or a prescription from a physician, and that physician would have to be specially certified in Louisiana by the Louisiana Board of Medical Examiners. It would be dispensed only through a pharmacist, and it would be grown only in a setting that's controlled by the Department of Agriculture. So it's not like other states that you say, I think I'm depressed and, let me go get 4 or 5 plants, or let me go to a dispensary and I have a card that says I need this. This is going to be the exact same situation as, you have blood pressure problems and you go to your physician and he or she writes your prescription and you get it through the traditional type channels. It would limit, though, the dispensaries to be only 10 in Louisiana, and that was a compromise that I made with law enforcement and district attorneys because they didn't want a proliferation of the product. They wanted to have it under a controlled setting. And I think at the end of the day, the legislature got it right, and they basically said, if it's patient-specific and it's specific for certain disease states that are debilitating, we want people in Louisiana to have this opportunity, but we also want to make sure that it's strictly medicinal and not recreational.
So the doctors determine the illnesses that has shown to be affected by the use of this medicinal marijuana. The doctors have determined that. Who has determined the illnesses that marijuana can, in fact, be of service to?
That's a great question. That was the big debate this legislative session. From a historic standpoint, medical marijuana has been legal in Louisiana since the 70s. Once again, it was legalized again in the 90s, but never did the legislature determine how you would grow it, dispense it, prescribe it, and what disease states would it be used for, because you wanted to make sure it was specific for disease states that have a use for it. So what we did is last year we passed the legislation, but we said we would reserve our rights to increase disease states from 1991, and that's what we did this year. We added it to 10 disease states, and they're cancer, HIV, AIDS, different types of debilitating disease such as epilepsy, spasticity, Crohn's disease. So those disease states are covered, and the legislature made that allowable to have medical marijuana prescribed for that condition. But the doctor would have to make the diagnosis and determine, say, that the person does suffer from Crohn's disease. If the person suffers from Crohn's disease, they would have an opportunity to get medical marijuana in Louisiana. So we made sure it was very disease-specific, and those diseases have either been studied by different experts throughout the United States, or different states have enacted that legislation, and it's worked in those states. So we went through a kind of a very statistical, thoughtful way to say, here are the disease states we should look at. And quite frankly, I'm getting calls from families throughout the state of Louisiana saying, why is my disease state not included? So I think as the process evolves, this will be looked at probably on a year-to-year basis by the legislature.
Sounds like you have a lot of checks and balances already in place. However, the audience, of course, is, I'm sure, asking this question. There has to be some drawbacks as far as what might be able to fall through the cracks, as far as children getting their hands on that. I don't know if there's any safeguards that you can take once it's out of the hands of the dispensers or the doctors into the hands of the users. Have we identified any is there anything identifiable as far as the drawbacks to this being in the hands of those who are prescribed the medical use of marijuana?
That's a great question. Well, I think we put some safeguards in it. The first safeguard we did is every recommendation or prescription, the words are kind of interchangeable, but every prescription that is filled has to go through the state's prescription monitoring program, same program that every drug like OxyContin or Lortab goes through. So if there is abuse, it signals through this program that somebody's shopping and going to 10 drugstores and 10 physicians, and that's doctor shopping. And we don't allow that in Louisiana on narcotics. So that's the first stopgap, at least at that phase. Second stopgap, the legislation basically reads that it can only be the refined oil, and the refined oil has to be at the lowest level of THC that's medicinally allowable. So from a standpoint that, just from a simple debate standpoint,
Doctor, Senator, hold that thought right there. I'm up against a break. I want you to come back and complete your thought. And then I want to talk to you about physical therapists wanting non-referrals, wanting to be able to have people come directly to them. I'm on with Senator Fred Mills of New Iberia. I'll be right back.
riding round in that Texas town.
CL back with you on this rainy evening in the jewel cities of the Arklatex, and really glad that you're able to be here with me. And of course, we are streaming live throughout the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known, America. We're on now with Fred Mills, Senator from New Iberia, a pharmacist by profession. And, of course, we have talked about the pros, the cons, and the safe gaps, stop gaps that are will be in allowing medical marijuana to be used by those with certain diseases. You were saying when we left, Senator Mills, that about those stop gaps, and you were expounding upon that. If you continue.
Right. Thank you so much. And I sure enjoyed a little ZZ Top. That was good. I always
You like ZZ?
I really enjoyed ZZ Top. Yeah, what I was basically saying is you worried that this would get in the hands of children and there could be an abuse potential, but we did put stop gaps at the point of sale, and really from the standpoint, the legislature made sure that this was only in a refined oil. It had to be in the lowest form of THC, which is the euphoric piece. And also, when you look at this, the diseases are so debilitating that when someone's going to come and fill this for cancer usage, and it's very limited on the quantities that you can get and the amount of times you can get the quantities, that I just don't think that there's going to be that abuse issue such as OxyContin or Lortab that is on prescription now. You always do run that chance, but I think we have stop gaps at the point of sale. And by limiting those disease states, it really limits that audience that could use it.
I definitely want the people, the audience, to understand that science has proven this medicine as something that can be used in a very effective way over a period of time. And I don't think that at this point it's anything for us to be hysterical over, as long as it is administered in the way that Senator Mills is in fact describing it to us. And so, folks, I'm for it as far as the progression of using it for medical purposes. We never know. After all, aspirin does come from the old aspen tree, And so let's give it a chance. I have a lot of pros and cons, Senator, on it, no doubt about it, because people are still in the mode of being fearful of drug usage and the gateway usage that marijuana has proven itself to be. But you've assured us, I think, you've acquitted that, in a way that we don't have to be afraid of that, and I want to thank you for that. Now I want to move on to another topic. Go ahead. Please do.
I sure agree with your statement. I really do. What the public does not see, because when you look at the bill, it's a 19-page bill, but when you look at the rules and regulations that are being written by the board that regulates doctors and pharmacists and agriculture, collectively, there's probably going to be about 150 pages of stopgap rules. And I know we don't need more regulations and laws on our books, but in this case, it makes it such a conservative medical piece that when you look at the rules and regulations, I think it even adds to your statement. So I just wanted to thank you for that statement, but just to also let your listeners be reassured that the rules are very cumbersome.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the clarification. Now, prior to now and up till now, physical therapists have had to have patients referred to them by physicians. You are putting forth a measure that may allow the patient to go directly to the physical therapist. Tell us more about that.
Correct. And you really did a good job of condensing it. Yes, right now a patient would have to get a prescription from a healthcare practitioner and then go to the physical therapist once that's done. In probably 22 states, there's direct access. Nebraska was the first, I think, in the mid-50s to have direct access. And I received calls over the years saying, listen, I have a sprained ankle. I'm going to have to go to a doctor and get a prescription and then go to a physical therapist. And so there was an outcry in my area, and so we basically, between the Physical Therapy Association and the Physical Therapy Board, just a couple of, last night the bill passed the House floor and it's awaiting the governor's signature that if you would like direct access to a physical therapist, it's allowable for you. But the stopgap to also help the public and have a safeguard is after 30 days, if you don't have measurable, and there's certain things that are measurable, like your swelling and mobility and movement, if you don't get improvement, then the physical therapist shall make a referral to the practitioner that you would like to go to. So in my thought process, it's easy access. If it's a very simple procedure, this within the scope of practice of that physical therapist, you can get direct access and care and probably get in a much better physical condition. But if that physical therapist, one, sees that you're not getting improved, then the referral is made. If also it's out of the scope of the practice of the physical therapist, that referral is immediately made. And it is a piece of legislation that says may. So that if the patient still feels comfortable going directly to the doctor for a prescription, that's an option. And if the physical therapist doesn't feel comfortable doing this alone, they can also make the referral immediately. But it's just kind of one of those stopgaps, once again, that says, hey, patients want direct accessibility to a physical therapist. It's in other states, but there's also safe gaps that if it's not working, then the referral has to be directly made. So I think we found the sweet spot on that.
I really think you have, and I think you will make a lot of patients who are suffering and probably, and of course, will suffer in the future, a lot more, have their mind more at ease about their choices in their therapy directly. Just choose one. And so I want to thank you for coming on because, first of all, you're very good to talk to in the sense that you're clear. Great clarification. God bless you. God keep you, Senator. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, too, and thank you all for the good work you're doing.
Thank you, sir. I'm CL. We'll be back. Lloyd Thompson, NAACP President. Shreveport when I return.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
It is I, your native son, C.L. Bryant, and this is the C.L. Bryant Show. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining in today and tuning in today and listening. You can download the free C.L. Bryant Show app and listen anywhere you want to listen to the show. Just go to your app store and download it onto your iPhone or your Android phone and listen to the show anywhere. And be sure to go to our website, theclbryantshow.com. In the studio with me now is someone who I'm very happy to have on board with me. In fact, I have shared in my past a common experience with him, and that is being president of an NAACP branch. I was the president of the Garland branch of the NAACP, actually in another life when I was a liberal and progressive and all that. But that's not necessarily what I want to talk to him about today. Both of us are from this city. We grew up in this city. We love this city. We were just talking during the break about some common people that we know. And there is something happening. I want to introduce to you Lloyd Thompson, the president of the NAACP Shreveport, Louisiana. Welcome to the show, Lloyd.
Thank you for inviting.
You're quite welcome. Let me let's get to what's going on here in Shreveport with the violence, the homicides that are going on. You have spoken to it. You have taken measures to see what we can do about curbing that. What's going on, man? Why is this happening?
I don't know what's going on, but I told someone the other day, for 8 years, I've been talking about black-on-black crime in this city. All of a sudden now we've had right at 15 shootings in 15 days. Even as early as yesterday, man sitting on his porch got shot.
Wow.
He's in critical condition. We have got to figure out a way to take our city back. And when I said take our city back, it's all right to march and rally, and I'm all for that. But I know the common solution to the problem is that we got to turn and pray.
Absolutely.
And this city has to realize that that's the only thing that's going to heal us is prayer. Because God is able to deliver those young folks' mind who are not showing up at the church house, not showing up at the rallies. But we got to do something to take this city back. No business want to come here. Nobody want to come and visit casinos. Nobody want to have anything to do with Shreveport. Because who want to come to a city and say, I might just ride down the street and get shot?
Yeah.
So we got to figure out a way to do it. So I've been working with clergymen, politicians, whoever will, I've been working with them because we've got to come up with a plan,
right?
A solution on how we're going to address. I think education is one of the key components. Jobs is another key component. And we got to have leadership from the top saying, okay, I'm going to make sure that I put the resources in place. And more police in Allendale ain't going to stop no shooting in Motown.
Let me ask you this. Both of us grew up in a time where the church was the central focus of the community. And everything that happened, and even the worst kid in the community had gone to church. We have a generation now where and this is an actual statistic, between the ages of I think it's 7 to 17, you have a generation now where nearly 50% of those kids, Lloyd, have not been in a church building.
Right.
That's throughout America.
Right.
And surely you're beginning to see that here in Shreveport with the violence that you're saying.
Right. And I keep telling folks, the kids we're trying to reach ain't going to show up at Evergreen Baptist Church right up 4 Allen Avenue.
No.
So what do we do to reach that child? We got to go out in the community, and we got to quit being afraid of our own children. Let's go in the community. Let's go and sit on those cars that they got and hang out on the corners and find out what's going on with their mind. Nobody's talking anymore. I remember we would have a fight today and we'd be friends tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a fight today, you lucky if you get home.
Yeah.
because someone would shoot you or kill you right there on that corner. So we've got to try to find out what's going on with our young folks, and it's going to take the whole community. It's not going to just take black folk. It's going to take the whole community. Both sides of the track are going to have to journey in and make sure we find a solution, because I can tell the businessman, you can't sleep good knowing there's violence in the city and hoping to make money from outsiders. Nobody's coming here.
You hit upon something
So
there.
we got to do something.
Absolutely. How can we, as black people, be content? How can we be satisfied with what's going on? You see, sometimes we drive right by situations and we're satisfied as long as we get home ourselves, long as we have ours.
Right.
But that kid, really, in the gangs, he's looking for some type of validation.
Exactly.
That's what they're looking for.
Right.
So you're right. I agree with you. There has to be some personal contact, and I'll be happy to go with you into the community. That's how my ministry started, in the streets of Los Angeles.
Right.
So I'd be very happy to go with you and talk to them and invite them into a common place where we can talk and show them entrepreneurship, how to make money.
And you got to show them you love them. And I keep telling folks that these young folks most of them come from broken homes. Most of them never had anyone that said, I love you on a daily basis. And I think we've got to go where they at, and we got to meet them where they at, and we got to show them some love. And we got to say, what can we do to change your mindset, that you will put the gun down and start talking through your situations, so we won't become one of the deadly cities in the United States if we're not careful.
Per capita, we are beginning to creep up on the type of shootings that are happening in Chicago, man.
Exactly. And it's scary.
It is incredibly scary. A city this size, and you said it earlier. People, let's see where we're going to go drive through on our way to Houston or Dallas, and they just keep going through Shreveport because, like you said, I'm not going to take the risk of getting shot. Now, let's talk about entrepreneurship. Let's talk about what might happen, because see, I see that kid on the corner driving through the neighborhood who is selling, he's selling grass or dope or whatever he's selling. He is. I don't know what other people see in that kid, but I see an entrepreneur. I see a kid who's willing to get out there and take a risk. First of all, that's the first thing he's doing. He's taking a risk.
Taking a serious risk.
He's taking a serious risk, and he's exemplifying sales skills. So how do I make him sleep good at night by understanding that nobody's going to come and drive by and shoot up his house because he has drugs in there that they want? How can I take that kid and turn those skills that he have into something that can be productive to the community? Lloyd, we have to talk about how to put those types of seminars together with people who are willing to invest their own money.
You're right. And then we got to make sure that our school system are not failing our young folks. We got to make sure our school system is providing the best education possible for those young folks who shows up at those buildings every day. And we can't do that by continuing to close down schools in the inner city. We just need to, if we close one down, we ought to say, okay, this is a job training site. We're not going to just board the building up. We're going to bring some young folks in to teach them how to be chefs or be mechanics or be bricklayers or be carpenters. Let's use it as a training center. Don't just let it be a vacant building for the...
Hold that thought, Lloyd. I'm going to have you bring you back after the break. Lloyd Thompson, president of the NAACP, Garland, Texas. I'm CL.
Rumors spreading round.
CL Bryant,
That takes
back with you
time.
on this Thursday evening here in the jewel cities of the Arklatex, Shreveport and Bossier City, my hometown. I am your native son. And in the studio with me is somebody I really want to commend for being a stand-up guy. All of you know the reputation that I have, and so many times those who would be around and so forth as far as what I do around the nation sometimes shy away because of the reputation that I have for, well, let me tell you. I'm just going to tell you the way I see it. But Lloyd, I want to give you some kudos, man, for coming in, standing up. Let's build this conversation and let's look at some solutions so that what we're doing now just is not talk. Right. Now, you've been president for a long time here in Shreveport. Give me some vision. Tell me what you might want to do. Give me some ideas as to how we might be able to partner together, because I know that we look at things maybe. And then again, you know, Lloyd, I think once we get a chance to boil it all down, I think we'll be talking about the same things. We're just coming at it from a different direction. Right. That's all.
Well, one vision I have as the local branch president is to energize and mobilize our young folks. Our young folks are going to have to take the torch and lead this community to the next level. When I talk about the next level, I'm talking about teach them the importance of going to vote. I don't care who you vote for. Just go vote. Once you get registered, use your register to go vote. Create your own destiny. Stop depending on folks to create your own destiny for you. Get you a good education. Determine whether you want to own your business or whether you want to work for a business. And as the president of this branch, I want to make sure that I leave a legacy that somebody can say, he always wanted me to promote myself. He always wanted me to be better than he found me. And that's what it's all about, because the things we used to do back in the 60s, I tell folks I'm not a 60 president. I'm sorry, I'm just not a 60 president. Oh, I hadn't got my head beat in the street. I hadn't been drugged down the street. And plus, I'm a pretty big, heavy fella, so you drag me, I'll probably never get well. So I'm not for dragging. But I've always said, let's look at how we can do things a little bit different. Yeah, we face some of the same problems, but I think it's the way we look at that problem, how we address that problem. And I have not met a person that I had an issue with that I can't go in a room and sit down and talk to them and say, hey, how can we do something a little bit different? How can we make this a lesson learned where we can help that person rather than hurt that person? So my vision is clear. Let's work together. Whether you black, blue, or green, the NAACP does not set the National Association Organization for Black people, except for color people, all people of color. I get calls from whites that have been discriminated against, Latinos been discriminated against, and I treat them all the same because nobody deserves to be treated wrong or injustice regardless what color you are.
You know, you remind me of something a regional director once said. His name was Richard Dockery, Reverend Richard Dockery. I think he's gone on to his reward. Doc, if you're out there and somehow you're hearing this show and you're not dead, please forgive me. But he said this when answering that same question, Lloyd. He said, if we find a people on this earth that does not have a color, we'll change the name of the organization.
That's right.
And so it has served well. I liked what you said, excuse me, about your legacy. And we have to teach the kids also that they have to leave a legacy.
Exactly.
So many of the young people have babies.
Right.
We call it babies having babies.
Right.
But and is that the legacy truly that we want to engage? And is that something that we are going to surrender on and say that can't be turned around?
Right.
I believe it can.
Right, it can. I believe
with education.
Well, education is going to be the passport to the freedom. Mm-hmm. I tell folks all the time, when they come and talk about they want to be over the NAACP, they want to be over the organization, the first thing I ask them to go back and look at the history. Understand what the bylaws and the missions of the organization. The mission that they had in the 60s does not work in 2016.
Amen.
So the mission may still say the same, but our vision got to be different. Because now where we couldn't work in the airport not only are we working the airport, we're flying the airplane. So the mission have changed. So we need to make sure that when we look at making this place a better place, that we find a common ground where we can make sure all folks are being treated fair and equal across the board, and you will leave this place a little bit better than you found it.
Let me say this to you, man. The way you are putting it out there, you are have an opportunity to be a Renaissance president, and you have an opportunity to lead an organization that in many times is stuck in the past,
Right.
and with backward thinking, because yes, we came through that.
Right.
But we have come through, and yes, that there are things that still exist in this country that do, in fact, sometimes lend itself to discrimination. That's a truth.
Right.
But the methods and the methods of approaching it cannot be the same way that they were in those times. We agree on that. We agree on that, and that's the bridge that we must build. Working hard, owning your own business. Those are principles that I espouse all around this country. So my question is, there can't be much distance between us because we're looking at the same type of solutions, and that is the free market, understanding the free market, and engaging in the free market and making it yield for black folks the same thing it is yield for every other American in this country. And I'll tell you something else, and then you get the last word. Tell them about the ideas of Booker T. Washington. You never hear about his ideas anymore. We have schools named after him, but we don't know anything about him. If we understand him, he believed that we could do the same thing that the Irish and the Italians and everybody else could have done, but he was shouted down. You have the last word.
Well, as I go forward with the NAACP, we must look at the past, but realize that the present is more important. If we're going to make a future great, we got to teach our babies about the future to be. We cannot teach them about when I couldn't sit down in Walgreens downtown or whatever downtown. You got to teach them about you can sit wherever you want to sit. You can be whatever you want to be, but you must apply yourself. Education, determination will get you anywhere you want to be in this country, regardless what color you are.
Again, I want to thank you for being a stand-up guy, coming in here and talking to me. I'm CL. This is the CL Bryant Show. We have been on with Lloyd Thompson, president of the NAACP here in, I almost said Garland, Texas, but here in Shreveport, Louisiana. And folks, I hope those of you, and this show will run again tomorrow morning on our friend station, The Promise. And God bless and keep you. Fight the good fight. I'll be announcing the website when I return. In fact, stay with me, Lloyd. Stay with me just one more 2 or 3 minutes. Back in a minute.
I knew a man, Bojangles, and he danced for you.
CL back on this Thursday evening. Hope you're safe and sound out there on the streets of Shreveport. Listen, I persuaded the president of the NAACP to stay just a little bit longer with me, and I wanted to give out the number 320-5335, 320-5335. I think I can persuade him to take a couple of calls if you want to talk this evening. And but this is what I would really like to do, and I want to share a little bit with the audience what you and I talked about during the break. The one thing I have noticed about what I call the progressive liberal media is that they love to see two black men in particular at each other's throat about whatever it is. They like the progressive liberal media love to show that image. And somehow they have made us believe that they're trying to help us by showing that. But I'm glad that we've got a chance to do this today. And I know, Lloyd, that you and I, in some instances, in many cases, come at the problems in America from different areas. And that's just fine. Right. But what I am very happy about here tonight is that you and I are able to talk about it as intelligent men with a vision for what need to be done, and hoping that we can do something to put some feet, muscle, and legs behind the vision, because we agree. We came to a point where we agree there's a problem. We agree what the problem is. We agree that there has to be educational inroads into it, and we also agree that kid out there is not somebody who could be thrown, who needs to be thrown away, especially if in fact he hasn't committed some heinous crime or something of that nature. There's a way to salvage that kid who has entrepreneurial skills, and so give out the website.